when I do public appearances, I get very anxious. I had an anxiety attack. Pretty much I can't post a picture of myself on Twitter without a bunch of people telling me how ugly I am. I'm hesitant to share a lot of myself with the world.
That's what happens when you're a bitch, is that nobody likes you. I know it sounds crazy, but that's those are the consequences of your actions. That's life.
The spotlights were already sweeping across the crowd when the first rumors started to swirl. Outside Madrid's historic Teatro Real, velvet ropes stretched past swarming fans, security dogs patted the carpet, and camera crews rehearsed their live hits. Everyone expected to see Disney's newest leading lady glide onto that crimson runway, a living promise of the studio's shiny, modern fairy tale future. But the doors stayed shut. Minutes ticked by. Executives whispered into earpieces. A frantic publicist sprinted backstage and never reemerged. Inside, the film's PR team began yanking step and repeat banners off their metal frames, folding them as if the whole night had been a misunderstanding. Nobody in the plaza knew it yet, but the movie that cost nearly $250 million and the young star built to carry it had just vanished from Disney's release slate without a single public statement. Production assistants were ordered to delete social posts. Reporters were told technical delay, and the lucky few who managed to peek behind the curtain saw only chaos.
Rachel Zegler, thanks for coming on my show. I sold out years ago and I'm a coward. So you recently starred in the movie Snow White. Tell me, what was it like to play Snow Latina?
First of all, Steven, it was weird. But I did enjoy reimagining the character as a woke Colombian woman who looks like a fish.
A dressing room with shattered phone glass on the floor and a shaken voice repeating, "They pulled it. They pulled everything." The red carpet never reopened, and while journalists packed up their tripods, one question echoed louder than the shouts of disappointed fans. How does a sure-thing blockbuster implode before it even premieres? But the answer doesn't start on that abandoned carpet. To find the first crack, you have to rewind to a high school auditorium and the girl with a handheld mic who thought the world could only cheer. Long before studio accountants pinned billion-dollar hopes on her, Rachel Ann Zegler was just another New Jersey teen who loved belting Disney ballads in echo-heavy stairwells. One winter night, she uploaded a grainy phone video of herself singing "Shallow." By sunrise, the clip had jumped. From a few dozen classmates to thousands of strangers applauding her raw, arena-ready vocals. It wasn't the internet's usual overnight myth. Casting scouts for Steven Spielberg's West Side Story really did reach out, and, after an open call that attracted 30,000 hopefuls, picked the 17-year-old nobody to lead. Their $100 million revival. The jump from bedroom covers to Golden Globe newcomer felt like a Cinderella reel played on fast forward.
We covered woke Snow White, no longer white, snow taupe, snow beige, snow swarthy, snow's not swarthy. Some kind of sediment or sand that is no longer blanc. This young woman just explained the far more egregious changes to the story than the casting of this out-of-place actress.
Spielberg called her a once-in-a-generation voice. Talk shows booked her back-to-back, and studio analysts started placing friendly bets on which franchise would scoop her up first. Disney won the sweepstakes. In early 2023, the company announced its first Latina Snow White, marketing it as a bold step toward a more inclusive Magic Kingdom. Overnight, hashtags praising the casting racked up millions of likes. Lifestyle outlets ran glowing profiles, and high-end fashion houses mailed racks of sample gowns to her apartment. In theory, the next chapter wrote itself. Film the remake. Tour the world, accept the mantle of princess for a new age. Instead, the congratulations morphed into crossfire, because the applause died the moment the internet decided Snow White's old paint job was sacred, and no reimagination would pass without a fight. At 08:07 a.m. Eastern on announcement day, the first skeptical tweet appeared, "Snow White, but make her not white? Disney, we need to talk." By lunchtime, the platform was a bonfire of culture war hot takes. Conservative commentators branded the hire PC theatrics, while progressive threads dug in with equal ferocity, cheering a long overdue update to a 1937 relic. Then another fault line cracked open when actor Peter Dinklage blasted the studio for celebrating diversity on one hand while still stereotyping dwarfs on the other. Within 24 hours, Disney's publicity department rushed out a promise. The 7 companions would now be mythic forest beings, rendered with state-of-the-art CGI.
The thing is, when the internet decides that they hate somebody, They hate him. They hate him, and that's it. And I feel like, especially with people like this that have like these types of viewpoints, I don't see her coming back from this at all. I think she is totally cooked with this.
Nobody was satisfied. Fan artists posted side-by-side mock-ups, Rachel in a Technicolor gown, flanked by Smurf blue sprites, and racked up millions of mocking likes. YouTube pundits pumped out reaction videos titled, "Disney Just Buried Its Own Legacy," and "Snow Taupe, Snow Beige." Petitions began surfacing. One demanded a recast, another asked Disney to leave classics alone. Still, the outrage was scattered. More noise than knockout. That balance shifted when Rachel herself grabbed the mic. During a red carpet chat meant to hype the film, she laughed. "It's not 1937 anymore. Our princess doesn't just wait around for some stalker. Prince!" The clip hit TikTok like gasoline. "Not My Snow White" trended. Edits looped her words over eye-roll emojis, and mainstream anchors quoted the soundbite as proof Disney had lost touch with its own fairy tales. Merch that once sold out overnight began collecting digital dust. And the wildest part? The biggest backlash hadn't even begun, because Rachel was about to double down, and every camera in Hollywood was rolling. Rachel's next press junket should have been routine. Smile, answer softball questions, wave the brand new diamond cluster on her Disney princess ring. Instead, she treated every microphone like an open mic night. When Variety asked how Snow's revised story would handle the prince, she fired back, "He can keep his unsolicited smooch. I've got kingdoms to run." Reporters laughed. Social media did not. A 15-second clip hit TikTok, looped over a girl boss activated sound, and the stitches were brutal. Overnight, the hashtag Jacques Not My Snow White leapt past 100 million views. She doubled down. On another carpet, this one for Shazam 2.
You said you were bringing a modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
A blogger asked why she jumped from Spielberg to Capes so quickly. Rachel shrugged. "I needed a job." 3 words, 10 syllables, and a million reaction gifs of celebs spitting coffee. Memesters crowned it the most expensive humble brag in Hollywood, and edits surfaced of her face slapped onto wanted posters. PR nightmare. Reward if found quiet. But the line that detonated the goodwill bomb arrived during an Instagram live. Wearing the Snow White hoodie Disney had mailed to influencers, she joked, "If I'm going to stand 18 hours in that corset, I deserve a check for every single stream." Fans heard "pay me twice." Detractors heard "I'm bigger than Walt." And Disney heard "crisis meeting, now." Within hours, the stream vanished from her grid, but the screen captures were already meme currency. Even lifestyle vloggers who'd originally praised the inclusive casting switched tone. Talent, undeniable. Self-awareness, missing in action. And still, none of that would have sunk a $250 million fairy tale until the studio itself started wobbling, and the calendar became its own ticking bomb. Summer 2023 set the first domino tumbling. The writers' strike froze punch-ups on Snow White's third-act finale, and SAG-AFTRA's walkout soon followed. Production paused, restarted, paused again. Insurance premiums ballooned. Disney moved the release from March 2024 to Christmas 2024, then penciled in spring 2025 with no day or month. Hollywood code for "we have no idea." Marketing budgets shrank in real time. A Times Square billboard that had looped Rachel's silhouette against a crimson apple flickered off mid-week and never lit again. UK talk show slots were scrubbed with the polite phrase, "guest rescheduled."
But I'll just let Rachel describe what she thought of Snow White for you herself.
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. Like, I'm being so serious. The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird. Super weird. So we didn't do that this time.
Fans noticed the missing promos first. Trade papers confirmed their hunches. Snow White was quietly slipping down the slate like a frosted pane of glass no one wanted to catch. Inside Burbank, executives started whispering the unthinkable, straight to stream. But those plans collapsed when the Disney Plus content roadmap leaked without Snow White's thumbnail. No coming in 2025, no under construction, nothing. Subscribers asked customer support if it had been postponed. Reps answered in copy-pasted sentences that said less than silence. That vacuum birthed conspiracy threads. Had Disney's accountants declared the film a sunk cost? Were they burying it to dodge bad press? Had Rachel's viral gaffes finally spooked the board? The rumor mill was already deafening, but real-world politics were about to crank the volume past 11. Gal Gadot, the film's evil queen, posted unwavering support for the Israeli-Gaza offensive. Rachel amplified pro-Palestinian fundraisers. Within hours, dueling hashtags flooded X. Shatter boycott Snow White, trending from the right. Shak free Palestine princess from the left. Comment moderators aged a decade in a week. Then Lebanon's culture minister weighed in. Snow White was officially barred from screens for undermining traditional values. Jordan hinted it might follow. In the U.S., 2 Texas megaplexes hired extra security after online threats promised to remind Disney where the magic really lives.
I love what you said about wanting to entertain audiences, critics saying Disney's too woke, but you're just putting out storytelling.
We are. Look, I don't really like the term woke because I think it's an umbrella term that I'm not 100% sure I even know what it means.
Suddenly, the fairy tale remake was pinned between real-world flashpoints, identity politics, Middle East conflict, and a brewing election, cycle itching for any spark. Corporate sponsors could smell the smoke. A luxury jewelry house swapped Rachel for a neutral CGI diamond in its holiday campaign. A sneaker brand blurred her cameo in its Be Legendary montage. Even Funko Pop delayed the princess figurine, citing supply chain issues no one believed. Disney's internal Slack channels flooded with red flag pings. Escalate. Talent social usage. Translation. Rachel's personal posts were now considered a hazard. Publicists begged her to stick to safe emojis. A book here, a coffee mug there. She tried, but the silence felt radioactive. Every new post, even a sunset photo, invited 10,000 snark-laden replies. And while the culture war raged outside, the studio's accountants stared at a spreadsheet that no longer made sense, setting the stage for the single coldest corporate kill Hollywood had executed in decades. Friday dawned with cautious optimism. Pre-sales weren't disastrous, and Disney's marketing algorithm still projected a respectable $60 million splash. But by the time Saturday's afternoon matinees rolled, the numbers were limping. Families that once treated every remake like a mandatory field trip simply didn't show. Some parents cited too much drama, others shrugged at the $18 ticket price, but the result was the same. Auditoriums half full and concession lines you could navigate without bumping anyone's popcorn. By Sunday night, the domestic haul had inched to just $42 million, barely enough to cover the billboards.
So early on, Snow White herself, Rachel Zegler, was riddled with controversy, starting with the fact that she essentially hated Snow White. She called the original story dated and weird and said that this was going to be some sort of modern take. I guess it was going to be like a feminist, like rah-rah, she doesn't need the prince sort of take on Snow White.
Let alone the film's rumored $250 million price tag. Overseas receipts brought the global total to $205 million, an accountant's nightmare dressed in Technicolor satin. Trade headlines called it a prestige bomb, the polite way of saying Disney would have made more money leaving the negatives in a vault. Analysts who once praised the studio's live-action pipeline issued grim forecasts. Remake fatigue was real, audience trust had eroded, and one outspoken financier quipped, "Next quarter, every exec in Burbank is carving costs like a Thanksgiving turkey." But the scariest metric wasn't box office. It was the drop-off. Attendance fell 72% between opening and second weekend, a plunge usually reserved for bargain basement horror sequels. Streaming projections flatlined, merchandise orders stalled, and Disney quietly told licensees to adjust inventory expectations. Of course, spreadsheets can be rewritten, reputations can't, and as the losses mounted, the tally of human fallout grew even longer. Inside Rachel's camp, phones rang with bad news on a loop. Her agent, once hailed for landing a Spielberg discovery on Disney's A-list, terminated the contract by mutual agreement. Translation: nobody wanted to explain her latest quote in tomorrow's headlines. Her longtime manager followed, citing strategic differences. Even the crisis PR firm, brought in after the TikTok firestorm, slipped out the side door. Within, 7 days, the team that built her red carpet armor was gone, leaving only a skeleton assistant to manage the endless Google alerts.
This is the central feature of the movie, is that it's a movie about love and that she is reawoken by love. They're taking the love out of it. No, it's not about Prince Charming and love anymore. It's about what a girl boss she is. Because that's what little girls dream of. They dream of being a girl boss.
Broadway, sniffing the wind, hedged its bets. The Evita revival that had billed her as the youngest Eva Peron announced an indefinite realignment of casting. Leaked rehearsal tapes, Rachel shouting over the musical director, someone slamming a prop suitcase, circulated in private Discord servers before splashing onto gossip sites. Sponsors fled faster. A jewelry brand swapped her for a faceless mannequin. A sneaker collab blurred her cameo in its Legends Rise montage, and a streaming bundle killed a 7-figure ad buy altogether. Meanwhile, casting chatter rotated to safer names: Jenna Ortega, Auli'i Cravalho, even Selena Gomez. One studio executive summarized the pivot in a leaked email. "We're not canceling Rachel, we're protecting upside. In Hollywood math, that's worse than a firing. It means the room has already moved on. Public receipts are brutal, but private silence can hollow a person out, and Rachel's next move would prove just how empty the spotlight can feel once it swings away." First, the tweets slowed, then the Instagram grid froze. For 2 weeks, Rachel's only digital footprint was the spinning wheel indicator under her profile photo. Fans noticed. Detractors gloated. Then, at 2:17 a.m. on a Thursday, a stark black square flickered onto her stories. No caption, just 30 seconds of nothing. Within hours, it vanished, replaced by a short reel of muffled piano chords and lyrics about fading into static. Comment sections split in two. Some begged her to take a break. Others accused her of fishing for sympathy. Mental health advocates intervened, reminding the swarm that public collapse is still collapse.
You feel the girl bossification of Snow White. I think we got like 2 seconds of the prince in this trailer, so who knows? Rachel Zegler said in her original sort of PR touring that she was doing on the subject of this film that the prince might be cut totally because he's not even important and he's a stalker anyways.
Behind closed doors, friends whispered that she wasn't returning messages, that food delivery drivers were the only people seeing her face. Tabloids printed unverified claims of panic attacks and blinds drawn all day. The same accounts that once roasted her snark now hedged their jokes with disclaimers. Hope she's okay, though. Even a few creators who'd milked millions of views, from Isa Not My Snow White issued clumsy mea culpas. Bad press is one thing, but nobody wants blood on their subscriber count. And Disney? Total radio silence. No statement, no wellness check post, not even a tepid wishing her the best. When a reporter pressed a VP at a media summit, he offered a 5-word non-answer. "We have no comment today." Translation: everybody. Lawyered up. Yet while the industry stared into the void of Rachel's sudden quiet, another reflection was starting to appear, one showing the cracks in Disney's magic mirror itself. And that reckoning was only just beginning. Autopsies are easy when the patient is already on the table, but Snow White's downfall cuts deeper than one actress's missteps or a handful of sloppy quotes. Strip away the memes, the corporate jargon, and the cardboard cutouts of mythic forest beings, and you're left with a studio staring at its own reflection, finally noticing the cracks. Disney spent a decade polishing live-action nostalgia into billion-dollar trophies. This time, the mirror shattered in its hands, and everyone watching heard the glass hit marble. Because here's the truth: no crisis memo can bury. Audiences no longer clap on command. They're tracking every cost-cut design tweak, every hollow talking point, every whiff of smugness. They still love magic, but they need to believe the wand isn't pointed at their wallets.
Of course, it's the obvious question, like, how are they going to figure out the kiss and the meeting of the prince and the apparent stalking that he does in the initial film? Because a lot of the leftist posturing surrounding Snow White initially was over that non-consensual kiss that exists at the end.
So when Disney cast a rising star, rewrote a beloved fairy tale, and dismissed criticism with hashtags, viewers read the spell backwards. The magic fizzled, the kingdom booed, and the court jester, social media, broadcast every stumble in real time. Rachel Zegler may have supplied the gasoline, yet the match was Disney's. A boardroom gamble that cultural buzz could replace story, that controversy could masquerade as progress, that you can update the princess while gutting the love story and still sell the same happy ending. The numbers proved otherwise. $42 million opening, a 72% plunge, and a brand new entry in film school textbooks under How Not to Relaunch IP. So where does the fairy tale go when the singing animals fall silent? Maybe Disney retreats, licking $100 million wounds, and returns with humbler tales. Maybe Rachel disappears for a while, emerges in an indie drama, and lets talent speak louder than tweets. Or maybe this cautionary tale becomes the turning point studios have dreaded, a moment when audiences collectively murmur, "We've had enough shiny remakes. Give us stories that breathe." One thing is certain, the kingdom's mirror is cracked. Whether Disney chooses to glue the pieces together or craft an entirely new reflection will decide who wears the next crown, who fades into folklore, and which myths survive the glare of a world that now sees every seam. Because in 2025, happily ever after isn't a guarantee. It's a contract the audience signs, and this time they slid the parchment back across the table unsigned.